Welcome back! We talk about cat events and the challenges they represent for the industry in terms of the increasing number of events, exposure, and the role of the reinsurers who must address these issues. However, the reinsurers, like the insurer, closely monitor their exposure to determine the maximum liability in the event a catastrophe should occur. So how is this taken into account in proportional and non-proportional treaties? What are the options? Let's have a look together. As you know, proportional and non-proportional treaties do not serve exactly the same purpose. Proportional treaties share the entire burden of right and risks between the insurer and the reinsurer. Consequently, they are used to cover risks that occur frequently. On the other end, non-proportional treaties are used to cover events of extreme intensity. Cat events are usually covered by non-proportional programs tailored for such events. However, this doesn't mean that proportional treaties do not contain a cat component. For example, when a reinsurer provides support to a company participating on a property quota-share treaty, it will cede any losses affecting the underlying portfolio to the treaty. This may include simplest fire losses or extreme cat event losses. Naturally, these losses are covered on a proportional basis as defined in the wording. To limit the reinsurer's exposure in case too many events or very extreme events affect the treaty, the reinsurer can include one of the following clauses: loss cap, annual aggregate limit, or event limit. The way these clauses work is quite simple. The loss cap fixes a maximal recoverable amount in the form of a percentage of the reinsurance premium received under the contract. This maximal recoverable amount is defined over the entire period of the contract and therefore on an aggregated basis for the period. For example, a loss ratio cat of 300% states that the maximal amount recoverable under the reinsurance contract is set to 3 times the reinsurance premium received, usually over a 12-month period. The annual aggregate limit, or AAL, is quite similar, but instead of defining a cap on the basis of a percentage, the limit is based on a flat amount. For example, an annual aggregate limit of 12 million euros. An event limit is a bit different, as it is based on a limit for each and every event that occurs during a given period and not on an average aggregate limit for several events. For example, an event limit of 30 million euros will cap the maximal reinsurance liability at this amount for each event. Therefore, if the ceding company is impacted by a 35 million euro event, then the 5 million euros over the event limit is not recoverable under the reinsurance treaty. Note that loss caps are usually found in proportional treaties, but ARLs, or event limits, can be found in either proportional or non-proportional treaty programs. Speaking about non-proportional treaties, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they are usually the structure of choice when covering extreme hazards events, whether these are NatCats or man-made events. Due to their nature, the design of excess of loss structures enable reinsurers to more easily determine the maximum exposure, because the boundary between the reinsurer and the cedant is defined by a deductible and a limit. For example, 10 million in excess of 2 million. In this example, if an extreme cat event should occur, the maximum capacity offered by the reinsurer will be 10 million. But excess of loss is not the only non-proportional structure used for cat events. Nowadays, companies are more and more keeping a core excess of loss program and purchasing additional programs to protect them from the increased frequency of minor events and protect their balance sheets in case of adverse years. The two structures that are used most often are the aggregate cover and the stop-loss treaty. Aggregate cover programs usually provide underlying protection for traditional cat XL programs. The main difference between this type of program and a traditional cat program is that once the sum of all the ceding company's losses reach the deductible, coverage will be triggered under the treaty. Then any additional losses can be recovered from the treaty until complete erosion of the program. Take for example, a 10 excess 10 million euro aggregate program. The ceding company will sum up all losses occurring during the years, as per the definition of the loss occurrence clause of the program, and if the total amount reaches 10 million, any additional losses will be recoverable through the program up to a maximal amount of 10 million within the period. On the other end, a stop-loss treaty is usually purchased on top of a traditional cat XL program. The purpose of a stop-loss is quite easy to understand: stop the losses. The way it works is very similar to the loss ratio cap clause mentioned earlier, as the limit and deductible of a stop-loss are based on a percentage of the premium. Let's look at this example: 50% in excess of 150%. This structure could be translated by saying, if the loss ratio of the ceding company reach 150%, then the reinsurer will pay every loss up to 50% of the cedant's premium income. Convenient, right? Well, it is, especially when protecting a company's balance sheet. Well, I hope you have enjoyed learning more about the different clauses and structures we use in the industry to monitor our exposure. In the next video, Clemens will give you more insight on the differences between natural catastrophes and man-made events. So see you next time!